right. You're thinking about prostate gland, right? Some kind of secretion which is coming from the prostate gland. And you're right. Prostaglandin was earlier thought to be as an hormone which was secreted from the prostate gland. And itself, prostaglandin was first isolated from the prostate gland secretion, and hence it is named as prostaglandin. One Swedish scientist, Ulf von Euler, got Nobel Prize in 1970s for discovery of prostaglandins. Now, the prostaglandins, though it was discovered from the prostate gland, now it is known that prostaglandin is literally present in all kind of tissues like bone tissue, nerve cells, muscle cells, and even the reproductive tissues like testes. Prostaglandin is actually derived from a fatty acid known as arachidonic acid, which is a 20-carbon fatty acid. Now let's look at the biosynthesis of prostaglandins in a bit more details. First, we should ask that at a cellular level, where are the prostaglandins produced and where are the prostaglandins stored? Now let me tell you, prostaglandins are very unstable compounds and their half-life is around 30 seconds. So they are produced, perform their work, and they are degraded. Now the prostaglandins has very high turnover rate. Now question is, in a cellular format, where does the prostaglandin is produced or the biosynthesis of prostaglandin is taking place? Prostaglandin synthesis takes place from the membrane phospholipids. Now, in the membrane phospholipids, if it is cleaved by phospholipase A2, it would release the precursor for prostaglandin synthesis, which is arachidonic acid. Now, from that arachidonic acid, in sequential enzymatic steps, prostaglandins would be produced. So this is the crucial step. Whenever it is required to be synthesized, phospholipase A2 releases arachidonic acid from the membrane phospholipids, and thereby prostaglandin synthesis can take place. Now, the key enzyme in prostaglandin synthesis pathway is prostaglandin H synthase. Prostaglandin H synthase has two kinds of activities. One is cyclooxygenase activity, about which we would learn shortly, and peroxidase activity. So the first step of prostaglandin production is production of PGG2. So arachidonic acid, with the help of the cycloogenase activity of the prostaglandin H synthase, incorporates two oxygen molecules in the arachidonic acid backbone. And that's the first step. After that, PGG2, with the help of peroxidase activity of prostaglandin H synthase, gets converted to prostaglandin. Now, PGG2 is reduced to the corresponding alcohol, which is PGH2. And this is done by peroxidase activity of prostaglandin H synthase. So, prostaglandin H synthase is a key molecule in the biosynthesis pathway of prostaglandin. Now, this process is a bit more detailed and a bit more complicated. So, from prostaglandin H2 with several enzymes, there could be several variety of prostaglandin could be synthesized. For example, PGI synthetase give rise to prostaglandin I2, whereas PGD synthase give rise to prostaglandin D2, and let's say thromboxane synthase give rise to thromboxane A2. And all these prostaglandin has different functions, which we would be discussing soon. Now, since we have learned about the prostaglandin biosynthesis, we should also understand that how prostaglandin production is regulated at a molecular and cellular level. Now, we remember that prostaglandin, the key raw material for prostaglandin production is arachidonic acid, which is derived from the cell membrane. Now, and it is triggered by a enzyme which is phospholipase A2. Now, by modulating phospholipase A2 activity, the prostaglandin production can be regulated, right? It turns out epinephrine, thrombin, angiotensin 2, bradykinin, vasopressin all positively regulate phospholipase A2 and thus leads to production of prostaglandin. Whereas steroids kind of inhibit prostaglandin A2 activity, and thereby a phospholipase A2 activity, and thereby prevent production of prostaglandins. Now we also remember there is another important enzyme in the prostaglandin synthesis pathway, which is prostaglandin H synthase. Its activity is triggered by catecholamines, whereas it is inhibited by compounds like methyl salicylate and many other similar compounds like aspirin, etc. As far as the mechanism of action is concerned, prostaglandins are found to be working in a G protein coupled receptor signaling pathway, and often prostaglandin stimulation leads to increase in cyclic AMP and protein kinase A activation, followed by several nuclear changes in terms of gene expression. Several prostaglandins have several effects on different levels. For example, prostaglandin I2 leads to vascular dilation, whereas thromboxane, which is secreted or which is prevalently present in the thrombocytes or the platelets, they induce vasoconstriction. So these two prostaglandins has different and opposing functions. Now, prostaglandin I2, or which is commonly known as prostacyclin, prevents platelet aggregation, whereas thromboxane promotes platelet aggregation. So we can see several prostaglandin type could have different and opposing functions, and which are both important in terms of physiology. PGF2, on the other hand, stimulates uterine muscle contraction, and due to its property like this, it is sometimes used to terminate pregnancy. Now, PGE and PGF has opposing role in terms of bronchoconstriction and bronchodilation. PGF lead to bronchial smooth muscle contraction, whereas PGE leads to dilation of the bronchioles. PGE2 and PGD2 increase the capillary permeability, enabling neutrophil and other immune cells to be extravasated from the particular blood capillary to the nearby tissue, and it has also implication in terms of inflammation. So PGE2 and PGD2 are involved in inflammatory responses. Now, overall, all the prostaglandins prevent or decrease the gastric secretion and increase intestinal mobility. So these are overall functions of prostaglandins. So this video summarizes the prostaglandin structure, where it was discovered, its function, how it works, and how the production of the prostaglandin could be regulated by our endocrine system. So this was a short overview and introductory video about